I'm going to go over how to play the game hand and foot. Before I do so, I'd like to tell you the individual point card values for single individual cards. Not when they're in a set, but just individual points for each individual card. So over here we're going to start off with the threes. The black 3 will always be worth 0 points. A red 3 can be worth points in certain circumstances. We'll talk about that later. 4 through 9 are each going to be worth 5 points. 10 and the face cards will be worth 10 points. Aces would be worth 20 points. 2s and jokers are wild. Now in terms of point value, 2s are worth 20 and jokers are worth 50 points. So the first step is you're going to go ahead and get out your cards for your hand and for your foot. And how you do this is you decide who goes first. Usually we pick a card out of the deck and the one closest to either the ace or the 2 you can choose gets to go first. Now what you will do is that person, whoever goes first, will try to pick out exactly 22 cards and break them up into 2 stacks of 11. If they do so and they get exactly 22 cards, then they get an additional 100 points. If not, nothing happens in negative or positive. You just keep continuing with play. So I'll count the cards. Now, because I only had 8 in each stack, I need to get some more. Now I have 11 in each stack. Now the next person may go. The key is to make sure that you have all your cards before moving on to the next player. Now, as you do so, you will then pass your cards one person to the left. That person then gets to decide which one they want to be their hand and which one they want to be their feet. Now, for the purpose of the illustration, I'm going to keep the cards and I'm just going to choose one to be my hand, one to be my foot, and you're going to go ahead and put the foot closest to the discard pile in the center. So at the end, you'll have a circle around the discard pile of everyone's feet at the table. So therefore, you're going to go ahead and look at your cards, and this is going to be your hand. Now, there's a couple things. You have to be able to go down in order to start playing. Now, to go down, you have to have 3 sets of 3, and for this first round, you have to have a total of 50 points, which is where the individual points for each card comes into play. So, I'm going to look here at my cards and decide if I have 3 sets of 3, so I'm going to categorize them by their number. So remember, 3s are worth 0 points, 4s through 9s are worth 5, 10s and face cards are worth 10, aces are worth 20, and then 2s and jokers are wild. Now in this case I have no wild cards, and as you can see here I have 3 aces, so I have my 50 point requirement, but I don't have my 3 sets of 3. I'm short a card for my 8 and the 7. I don't have any wilds. So let's continue play. The first thing you always do on every turn is you'll pick up cards. Now you have 2 options for picking up cards. You can pick 2 from the top, totally like normal. You can always do that. However, if there are 7 cards here in the discard pile, and after every turn you're going to discard 1 card, if there are 7 cards, then you may pick up that pile, as long as you have 2 of that kind. So I'll demonstrate that a little bit later when we get around to it. So as you can see here, I'm still short, so I'll have to discard. Now because my 3s and it's a black 3, that doesn't give me any points, I'll choose that. Now at this point, because I laid down, my partner could therefore play off my cards. They could add new groups of 3, or they could just continue adding on to these. Now when playing wilds with your groups, the thing to remember is at least you need to have at least 1 more regular card than wild. So you see here I have 2 7s, so I can play 1 wild. If I were to have 3 7s, I could play 2 wilds. So you always want to have 1 more additional than you have on your stack. Cards left over, 1 could be a discard. So now I'm just stuck with 1 card, which really leaves me no options but to keep drawing from the middle. So I chose to discard the 6, and here's why that comes into play. Because for this explanation, let's say a 9 was discarded by the previous player. Alright, at that point, because I have 2 9s in my hand, I could go ahead and pick up the top 7 cards. Now you can't look at those cards to see what they are, you just have to pick them up. So 5, 6, 7. So then I get to add those cards to my hand. key to this is you have to play at that time. You can't sit there and hold your cards for later. So remember, whenever you pick up, you have to play whatever card was on top, not all the cards, just the card on top, with the 2 from your hand in order for you to be able to pick up the middle. Now, another thing about the middle is that you cannot use the middle in terms of your points to lay down, except for the top card. So if I was using 9s in my first 50 points, I could use that top 9, but I couldn't go through here and use some of the other cards that I picked up in order to meet my 50-point requirement. Going into your foot, when you get rid of your hand, you can play into your foot, or you can discard. So I'm going to show you both options in different circumstances. So in this circumstance, I have a 3 and a 9. So I can go ahead and play the 3 over here. I can play the 9 over here. And this is what we call playing into your foot. So when you play into your foot, what you do is you lay down your cards, you pick up 2 cards from the top along with your foot, and you continue play. Alright. Option number 2, let's say I had that 3 and that 9, but then I also had a 10. Alright, what would happen then is I would lay my 3 and my 9 down like I had before and discard my 10. At this point, you pick up your foot because you're out of cards, but you do not get to pick up the 2 cards from the middle, and you do not get to continue playing. The one thing you cannot do is once you pick up your cards, of course, since you've already drawn 2 cards from the middle, you can't touch the discard pile at all, even though you probably have some doubles in your hand that can match up to the top card. You can't do that because you already picked up from the beginning. Now, if you discarded like I just did on that last time, and I just picked up my foot, and then it comes around to me and there are 7 cards, at this point you could go ahead and pick up the middle using what's in your foot. So we'll go ahead and organize these. I'm going to use the discard method, so I get to pick up 2 cards from the middle, or if there are 7 in the discard, I could pick that up as well. I'm just going to get 2 from the middle for right now, for all case and circumstance here. So, organize the cards. 9, 7. So in this case, I have a couple cards that I can play on my own. I have a double that I can keep right there with the 6s, and I have a card that I can't play at all with the Jack as of this point. So what I would do, because I happen to have 3 aces in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and throw these 3 aces down. Now, when you hit 7, that's what they call you getting a book. Now, these are all clean, so I get to leave a red card on top, and I'm going to put it above my cards here. So at this point, you really don't want to touch that. Now, I do have this red 3 here, and I could play it over here on my 3s in order to help get that to 7, which therefore, because these are dirty, because there's a wild card here, I could get 300 points. But to show you what you can also do, I'm going to put this red 3 over my cleans. This gives me another 100 points on that clean set. So as I continue playing, I see that I can play the 9 here, which would give me 5 9s, either red on top for the clean. I have a pair of 6s, I have a black 7, I have a king. I have a couple options here. I could play my wild card with my 6s and form a new group, or I can just hold on and hopefully I can pick up the middle. So we're just going to hold on. One thing I forgot to do was pick up my 2 cards in the middle before I play, which I should have done, which happens to give me a king and a 2. So I'm sitting here with 5. For right now, I'm just going to show you when you happen to have 6 cards, one thing that we found that's helpful to do with your partner is to lay the last card sideways so that they see that there's 6 there and they only need 1 more. So if I wanted to close out this dirty set, what I could do is I could just take this wild card and throw it on top. With that, keep the black up. Therefore, that shows me that that's still a dirty set. Okay, we fast forward just a little bit again, and as you can see here, we have some of our sets that were finished off. So I have 3 dirties and 2 clean, which is what you have to have in order to go out. Can you have more? Yes, you can. The more points, the better. we're just going to keep this as the basic what you have to go out. Once again, you don't have to have the red 3. That just gives me an extra 100 points. So as you can see here, I have at least 7 9s, at least 7 aces, at least 7 kings, at least 7 7s, and at least 7 3s. Now, in these 3 dirties, remember there are some wild cards, at least as long as there's at least one extra number card or face card to the wilds. So this is my last turn, hopefully, if I have the right cards. As you can see here, I have a jack, which I have nothing of, but I do have 3s and 4s. So what you can do is, with this, you can add to the top once it's done, completed. So because they're already dirty, my black 3 goes right on top like it should. If you happen to have a red 3, what we usually do is we just put it underneath the stack in order to keep the black on top so that we know that it's dirty when we get to the counting of points at the end. I can play my 4 over here, so I will do that here, and then I have discard. You have to have a discard in order to go out. Now, when you go out, at this point, play stops. Whatever cards you have left in your hand for the rest of the people at your table, they're going to negate those points. Remember, those are individual point cards. Negate those points from their tallies at the end. Now, one thing that you want to make sure you do not have in your hand, if you can, is a red number 3. For some reason, the players at your table go out and you happen to have a red 3 in your hand, or maybe you didn't get to your foot and the red 3's in your foot. At that point, you're going to lose 500 points. So it's really kind of important to make sure you get to that foot and make sure you get rid of those red 3's. They can be good for making books, they can be good for adding on, but if you hold on to them and you get caught with it, that's a dangerous thing that you can do. So make sure you're getting rid of those red 3's if the strategy allows for that type of thing. So at this point, we're going to count up our points and see how much we have. So remember, each clean is worth 500, each dirty is worth 3. So at this point, I have 1,000 points of books there, and I have 300 for each one of these to make a total of 900. So just in my books alone, I'm going to have 1,900 plus my extra 100 for my red 3, which brings me to a 2,000 total for my books. At that point, then you go back through and you count up individual point cards and add it to that 2,000. So we'll go back through. Remember, your 4 through 9s are worth 5 points apiece. Your 10s and your face cards are worth 10 points. Aces are worth 20. 2s are worth 20, and jokers are worth 50. Black 3s are worth 0, and if you happen, remember, you should already negated it, but if you had a red 3 left in your hand at the end of the game, or if maybe it was left in your foot in the middle of the table, that's a negative 500 on that score. So once you get done counting them up, you compare with your other partners and you try to have the most points, and then you go on to round number 2. Now round number 2 is the exact same as round number 1, except what's going to happen is instead of 50 points to go down, you have to have 90 points. Then you'll do this play through round number 2. At round number 3, after you counted up all your points again, just like the same way we did for round number 1, you'll play through again. Round number 3 would therefore start, and you would have to have 120 points to go down instead of 50 or 90. And then last but not least, you go to round number 4. In round number 4, you have to have 150 points to go down. At the end of the game, you tally up your points from each round, and the person with the most points wins. And that is a brief summary of how to play Hand and Foot.